this was the interesting part. When I initially came to you, I only had one goal, and that was just to get better with 3D, to kind of beat that imposter syndrome, get better with 3D, feel more confident about doing jobs. What I ended up finding out after doing your course was all the 3D stuff was really important. It's just the other half of it, the business side of it, working your portfolio, going through my LinkedIn, going through Behance. I've realized that that's actually the important stuff. Not to downplay any tutorials, because I think everybody needs to listen to tutorials. I think you need to learn the basics and stuff. The problem with the tutorial is it'll teach you everything. And what I needed was somebody to tell me, forget all this stuff. This is what you really need to learn. And that was what I signed up for, really, just to have somebody to tell me, you can ignore all this stuff. This is what you really need. And let's focus on this. And let's make this skill better. I was like a mid-level at everything. There was nothing really. I just needed somebody to cut out all the crap and say, work on this instead.
Sweet, dude. So today we have Sunny. Thanks for joining me. You're a member of the program, and I just wanted to do an interview with you to, see where you were before joining the program, where you're currently at now, and what your whole experience was like. I believe you joined somewhere around April, June, like 3 months ago or so, around 12, 13 weeks at this point. And just wanted to pick your brain.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the call as well. It's been great. I found your advertisement. I found your advertisement on Instagram, and I think I was at a point where I wanted to improve my 3D skills. I wanted to kind of get back into creating full 3D visualizations, because it was what I originally did when I first came out of university. And so if I was to kind of start there, so I came out of university doing animation. I then moved over to visualization in architecture. I then moved over to visualization in events, and that was great because I could do motion graphics as well, because I'd do a visualization of the event, and all the screens and stuff would have all my motion graphics on, so that was quite good. I then, after that, moved over to kind of agency side of a mixture of both motion graphics and 3D. And then I moved over to freelancing for myself. And I am now coming to year 3 of freelancing, which is, it's been a ride, but it's been good. But I really wanted to improve on my 3D skills. And when I decided I needed to do that, your advertisement popped up at the right time, and I clicked, and we had that conversation, and I've been with you ever since, really.
Cool. Sweet. And what has your experience been like so far? Because I believe, you were pretty good with the 2D animation stuff already, but when it came to the 3D stuff there, I think you were decent with like modeling and stuff, but when it came to like animation and visualization and stuff like that, that's where things started to maybe fall flat a little bit. So like, what was your experience going throughout the whole program and learning everything so far?
It was great. It was for me personally, it was more of because I felt rusty from 3D visualization, and I hadn't done it for a good few years. And I did it with different software as well, like V-Ray and Maxwell Render, from what I remember back in the day. And so when I came to you, it was kind of nice to kind of learn fresh with a new piece of software. Well, I've used Octane before, but I'd never visualized in Octane before. And my experience has been great. It's just to go through the course, meet up in the masterminds, have the one-on-ones with yourself to be able to get you to kind of tell me exactly where I'm going wrong. And I feel that was the advantage I had over tutorials. Not to downplay any tutorials, because I think everybody needs to listen to tutorials. I think you need to learn the basics and stuff. the problem with the tutorial is it'll teach you everything. And what I needed was somebody to tell me, forget all this stuff. This is what you really need to learn.
Yeah.
And that was what I signed up for, really, just to have somebody to tell me, you can ignore all this stuff. This is what you really need. And let's focus on this and let's make this skill better.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like you said, like I did modeling, texturing. I was like a mid-level at everything. There was nothing really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just needed somebody to cut out all the crap and say, do the decent work on this instead.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And in terms of like the big vision, like what were you looking to get out of this in the end? Is it like you want to learn how to create professional commercials and then like get clients for it and then have your own studio kind of thing? Or what was your whole motivation behind all it?
My whole motivation, honestly, was completely, you could say it was imposter syndrome. You could say I didn't feel good enough. I'd see some jobs. If I was to rewind a little bit, I'd see some jobs. Somebody asked me if I was able to do some work and I'd say no. And when I think back on it, I think I probably could have done it. I just didn't feel confident in myself and I didn't want to let the client down. So if I have a good relationship with the client, I do the work I know I can do, but I don't want to ever let the client down. So I needed to do this. And after going through these 12 weeks with you, I definitely feel that I could take on a project like that now. And that's been my biggest takeaway, I think.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I remember when you did speak, it was kind of just like a imposter syndrome, lack of confidence. And it's like, hey, it's not that the clients aren't there. It's just like, I don't have the confidence that I can even do the work. So I'm kind of just turning the stuff down. And what happened if a huge project did come along? It's like, would I even be able to kind of do that? and then that's probably
that
where,
happened. That's what was kind of, that happened. A big project came along and they came straight to me and they were really excited about me doing it. And I couldn't do it. I backed out. I just went, oh God. And then, and instead of earning, instead of getting paid by a client, I ended up paying you to teach me how to do the thing. Well, it's all good though. I feel I definitely, in terms of the imposter syndrome stuff, I definitely feel more confident with that. I think if I was to go back in time and I had this skill I have now, I would have said yes to that job.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how that works because there's like a whole group of people that are like, hey, like I don't even know where to find the clients and stuff like that. And there's a group of people that say like, hey, I know the clients are there. They're contacting me. It's just like, I can't even do the work and I just want to be able to deliver. And then you know that the clients will be there. And I think that's kind of like the position you were in.
Yeah, I think so. I just got to keep, I've just got to make sure that they call me again now.
Cool.
This time I'll do it.
Sweet. So in terms of where are you thinking of taking things now? Because like, you've created a really good commercial. Are you planning to, build up your portfolio? Do you want to start reaching out to clients? What are your kind of steps going forward?
Well, this is the interesting part. When I initially came to you, I only had one goal, and that was just to get better with 3D, to kind of beat that imposter syndrome, get better with 3D, feel more confident about doing jobs. What I ended up finding out after doing your course was I actually didn't, all the 3D stuff was really important. It's just the other half of it, the business side of it, working your portfolio, going through my LinkedIn, going through Behance. I've realized that that's actually the important stuff. And that's, it's almost like if I was to go back, it's almost like I probably should have learned that first before learning the 3D. But I've done everything the opposite way around. Now I have a decent piece of work. I'm now learning all that stuff. So that's kind of what my focus is right now. The business side of stuff, client relationships, being able to, doing direct messaging, filling up my portfolio, more and more projects, and becoming more of a niche in what I want to do, in particular with 3D animation.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because a lot of people, when they come to me, it's like they want to, their big goal is obviously like owning a studio, like having clients, all of that stuff. But then, like things that they struggle with is like they don't even know how to model and texture and things like that. And from my perspective, it's like, that's not even the things you should be struggling with. It should be like the bigger things, like how do you actually reach out to clients? How do you message them? How do you actually get them in the first place, rather than, all the like
It's
little
so true.
things, like
It's like I
little
said, I
render
did everything
settings,
backwards.
and yeah, and yeah, it's funny because like when people struggle with like little simple things like render settings constantly over and over and like stuff like that, I'm like, you guys need to be focusing on the bigger things. Like let's get the 3D good so that we can worry about like the bigger picture stuff. Like how do you actually have a business that gets clients consistently? And that's more of the important stuff. But yeah, it's very interesting. And in terms of like where you'd want to be in like a year, 2 years from now, like what are your kind of goals with all of this stuff?
So my goals right now is, well, at the moment I want to keep freelancing. I've loved freelancing. I think I think it's great. And I'd love, I think kind of maybe a studio. This is the thing. I'm kind of in that space of do I want a studio, or do I want to work for myself and kind of have the freedom? I think you've mentioned that in some of, I think you've mentioned about freedom and stuff in the course as well. And I quite like the idea of kind of having freedom while creating work for clients. So I think that's kind of my next step, really. I want to be able to, first of all, I need to buy a decent beast of a laptop with a nice cooling system. That's kind of my first goal. And then once I have that laptop, it'd be nice to be able to travel and do some 3D work while traveling. That'd be brilliant. I'd feel like I'd made it if I could do that.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people, like, it's not like they want to make $1 million or anything. It's like or anything like that. They just want to be able to, have their own business, have their own clients, do their own projects in their own time, and have the freedom to kind of travel and work with who they want. And if a lot of people were just making $10K a month on their own without having to like be an employee and be told where to be and what hours to work and stuff like that, they could travel around and like do projects on their laptop and stuff like that. And that's ultimately what most people want. There's a few people that are a bit more ambitious than that, but most people I think would just be happy doing that stuff. And I think that's a great goal to have.
I think it's kind of my first goal. Well, my second one. My first goal is to get the laptop to be able to travel. And then once I'm traveling, it'd be nice to see where my headspace is when I'm there. Like, maybe I might decide I want some staff. Maybe I'd want to get a studio. But I think I'd feel more confident about doing that once I'd made that second goal.
Yeah. And were there any like things that you maybe weren't expecting to struggle with while going through your progress?
I found the big thing for me, because in terms of 3D itself, because I'd come from mainly a visualization background, it was only mainly stills. And then my 2D animation would be more the After Effects stuff. And I did a little bit of 3D, but I wanted to do, the struggle for me was learning the commercial, how to do it completely by myself. And I learned a lot doing that because with previous jobs, I've only ever been used almost like somebody else is doing the commercial and they'd need me to create an asset for the commercial, or they'd need me to texture something quickly. But I was never involved in the whole from beginning to end. So that was the things I'd found a little bit difficult, but it was just a case of meeting you constantly on the mastermind. And there were certain things that, again, I think it's having you there in the mastermind. There were so many times where I'd hear you say something like, "Oh, Sonny, I had this problem. This is what you need to do. Click this one button, it'll solve it all." And it would be something really tiny that I'd spent 3 days trying to work out. And no matter what Googling I did, I couldn't find whatever this answer was. So it was stuff like that, but I'd find the answer as soon as I get to the mastermind call.
Yeah.
So I remember I had to accumulate all my issues before I got to you. I went, right, I've got this problem, I have this problem, so help me out here. But again, I guess it was just the commercial stuff that I found the hardest, but I got there in the end, and I know I could completely do that properly again.
Yeah.
I think everybody has to go through a painful period when learning this. You're going to make mistakes. Your software is going to break. Your laptop's just going to melt. So stuff's going to happen. And I think that's the frustrating part.
Yeah,
stuff that you just don't realize that's even going to come in.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with commercials, because it's so technical and there's like multiple scenes. It's not like you're just putting a bottle in a scene and then you're just adding in the lights and stuff. It's like there's so much that goes on and so much that can go wrong. So yeah, that's definitely, and it's also these projects last quite a while, and you kind
Yeah,
of
it
just get
was.
tired of it, and you're like, God, I
Yeah,
just want to move on. But when you're learning, it's like you just have to go through that process, and then over time, you do them faster and
yeah.
faster. So
One thing I did learn from your commercial stuff was in my freelancing work, I'm so used to kind of working a certain way. And I assumed that, so for instance, I worked with a lot of multi-passes, a lot of layers and stuff. And that's kind of how I've generally worked in freelancing. But I remember when doing the commercial, like with yourself and learning it, you'd help me cut out all the unnecessary stuff. So it's,
yeah,
you'd say like, you'd say, Sonny, like I get you want to use multipass, but you don't need to with this project. Just cut it out. Just
yeah.
stop causing yourself problems. And that was a massive lesson, definitely.
Yeah, keep things simple. Because
Keep things simple. Yes, yeah,
yeah, you don't need to have things that are not going to move you towards your goal. I mean, it's the same with everything. Like if people ultimately want to just get to a point where they're getting clients, like they should learn faster and don't put things in their projects that doesn't need to be there. And I know where it comes from because I've experienced this myself. If it feels complicated and if it feels like advanced and stuff, it makes you feel like you're professional, you know what you're doing. But in reality, it just kind of slows down the whole process, especially if you got like multi-passes for everything and huge files and then like unnecessary like high settings for all sorts of stuff. And then, just drags on projects
yeah,
and stuff. And you're not actually getting towards things that you actually want. So it's better to just cut that stuff out.
I think in the example we had, I had I think just between two masterminds. The first mastermind I'd sent like a draft render.
Mm.
Everything was low quality. You said you were quite happy with where it was going, and you said let's start rendering stuff higher. I decided to multipass everything, use EXR files, and when I sent it to you, everything was the wrong color. Everything had these random hazes out on the outside of all of my items and stuff, and I couldn't work out
Yeah.
why. You said, "Well, why have you done that? Just all you had to do was up the resolution."
Yeah.
That was all you had to do, and yeah. So yeah, it's painful for me, but it's a good lesson. It definitely made me learn
Cool.
learn the hard way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's been awesome to see your progress. There's a lot of companies out there that obviously like to have someone that's super highly skilled. I say this all the time. It's like, it's not that there aren't companies out there. It's just no one. It's more of a supply problem than a demand problem. There's so many companies that would love people that are great at 3D. It's just there's not many people out there. So it's cool to see, you specifically are getting to a point where, you're producing very high output work so that you can actually deliver the stuff for clients, which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess the last thing would be like, if you were speaking to someone that was in your position before, like, would you recommend them join the program? What kind of person would you recommend join? And maybe what are the specific things that you got out of it? Because I know, like you mentioned, like just having the calls with me was a big thing.
Yeah, I think you need to. I think whoever goes for this course, know why you want it. Really, I think you'd. But obviously realize that can change. So I wanted to learn how to be good at 3D. What I realized is what I actually needed to learn was how to be good at LinkedIn and have a decent portfolio and work at the client side. So if you are thinking about going on this course, know why you want it, and just kind of stick with that. Really, just stick with that, because I think it's so easy to get distracted. It's so easy to kind of do something else, or just kind of. It's not a magic pill. That's kind of what I want to say. Like, there's no point in giving you a bunch, like paying you, doing your course, and then assuming that it's all going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's just. I think that's kind of what I'm trying to say. You have to really put some work into it.
Yeah.
And I think if you keep coming to the masterminds and keep getting feedback and keep posting your work, which I'm starting to do a bit more now, and it's nice because I get replies from everybody else, and it's good to get some feedback.
Yeah.
So I think if you know why you want to do the course, you should completely do it, but realize it's not a magic pill. It's not.
Yeah.
You're not going to pay for the course, and otherwise you'll end up being somebody who's bought all these tutorials and has only got 20% through all the tutorials, which I know happens regularly.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Like whenever I do calls with people, I always ask them, like, what makes you want to join the program? Why not just watch free YouTube tutorials? Because there is a lot of stuff out there. And I also think the same thing. It's like just because you're part of any kind of course or program, if you do nothing, I can't get on your computer and do the 3D for you. You have to do some of it at least. So yeah, I would also say the same thing. You need to kind of like have, you need like you need to be someone that wants to put an effort into getting the results that you want, because you can. And there's a lot of people that are getting the results that a lot of people want. A lot of people that are doing 3D, making 10K a month and can travel. I've done it myself. It's just obviously, you need to be someone that's committed as well. Because I also say the same thing.
That's the word. It's committed completely.
Yeah. It's not like a little course where I just give you a bunch of videos and then that's it. You have to like actually join the calls and like get feedback and stuff. Otherwise, you just won't get the results that you want. So, yeah.
The thing is, I think if there was no masterminds and I was just to do your course, I'd probably get the same result. But because I know I'm going to have a meeting with you, there's a sense of accountability and sort of the personal feedback. And I think that's what encouraged me, because I knew I would literally say to you, thanks, Arthur, I'll get these done for the next call and we'll see where I am then. And that alone was the big thing for me.
Yeah, it's like going to the gym. I know this from my own experience. If you're going alone, there's not that much accountability to do things right. Versus if you're going with a friend or even a trainer who's like going to keep you in check. So, yeah.
That's it, keeping me in check. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, thanks for doing this call with me. It's been great to see your experience, and I'm excited to see where things go with you from here.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for all your help, and thanks for having me.
Cool.